Greetings, Seekers, and welcome once again to the Library of Divine Echoes. I'm your host, Christopher Little, and today we'll be exploring the intersection of Eastern philosophical paradigms, Western esoteric traditions, and how they, combined with the modern practice of operative magic, provide a fertile and boundless landscape for spiritual evolution. Dedicated to the exploration of timeless wisdom, self-improvement, and the operative depths of spiritual technologies, the philosophy of Alan Watts serves as a profound catalyst. Watts, a formidable interpreter of Eastern thought for the Western mind, offered teachings that seamlessly bridged the gap between rational knowledge, logos, and deep narrative truth, mythos, dismantling the illusions that bind human consciousness. This comprehensive analysis is designed to serve as the foundational architecture for an extensive, in-depth exploration. It meticulously delves into the multifaceted teachings of Alan Watts, aligning his perspectives on Zen Buddhism, Taoism, and Vedanta with the core tenets of Hermeticism, divination, and witchcraft. The objective is to provide practitioners of all skill levels, from the absolute beginner to the seasoned master, and from every cultural and religious background existing in human society today, with a robust, universally applicable metaphysical toolkit. By synthesizing these disciplines, the practitioner is empowered to cultivate inner harmony, manifest abundance, and approach life's inevitable challenges with a sovereign, growth-oriented mindset. The resulting synthesis transcends mere intellectual exercise, offering a living, breathing operational manual for the contemporary mystic. At the very core of Alan Watts' philosophy is the systematic dismantling of what he famously termed the hallucination of the separate ego enclosed in a bag of skin. Western societal conditioning predominantly forces the individual to perceive the self as an isolated, distinct entity, a lonely, temporary visitor thrust into an alien, mechanical universe. This perception creates an adversarial relationship with the nature and existence itself, wherein the environment is viewed as a hostile force to be conquered, dominated, and managed. The societal reinforcement of this illusion operates through a psychological mechanism Watts identified as the double bind. Society demands that the individual be an impossibly unique and separate ego, forcing a mandate to be spontaneous and authentic on demand. For example, commanding a child to love your parents or be yourself, which is inherently paradoxical and self-defeating. Because this foundational assumption is a hoax, any task undertaken from the perspective of the isolated ego, including religion and magic, results in a phony response to life. Watts eloquently refutes this paradigm by pointing out that living organisms do not come into the world from some external void, rather they come out of it, as leaves from a tree. In one of his most evocative metaphors, he states that just as the ocean waves, the universe peoples. Every individual is a unique action of the total universe, an aperture through which the cosmos becomes aware of itself. The world beyond the physical skin is not an alien landscape, but an actual extension of the human body, bound by a basic interdependence of all things and events. For the magical practitioner, this realization is the absolute cornerstone of effective practice. As long as the witch or magician operates from the standpoint of an isolated ego trying to force change upon an external, separate world, their magic is inherently limited by the boundaries of that artificial separation. The universe is an ever-elusive and ever-disappointing mirage only from the standpoint of someone standing aside from it. True operative magic requires the practitioner to undergo an inner revolution of the mind that turns common sense inside out, realizing that they are the cosmos utilizing a localized point of view. To understand how the illusion of separation took root and how it can be transcended, Watts categorizes human worldviews into distinct cosmological models. These models dictate how civilizations interact with reality, how they structure their religious beliefs, and how individuals conceptualize their own power. Cosmological model, the ceramic model. Philosophical description, Rooted in Judeo-Christian Islamic mythology, this model views the universe as an artifact made by a creator, just as a potter molds clay or a carpenter fashions a table. The creator is external to the creation, establishing an absolute distinction between God and the material world. Implications for the magical practitioner: fosters a sense of alienation, guilt, and subservience. The practitioner feels they are on probation, existing purely on sufferance. Magic is often viewed as a transgression against the boss, requiring the practitioner to petition an external authority for power or permission rather than generating it from within. Cosmological model: the fully automatic model. Philosophical description: the post-Enlightenment Newtonian view of the universe as a blind, mechanical clockwork of atoms and energy. It suggests the cosmos is a cosmic idiot, devoid of inherent meaning, intelligence, or purpose, constructing itself through random combinations over infinite time. Implications for the magical practitioner: reduces existence to a plastic, tasteless, or hollow mechanism. In this view, magic is dismissed as irrational superstition, and nature is treated as dead material to be exploited, leading to the ecological destruction of the planet. Cosmological model: the dramatic model. Philosophical description: the Hindu and Vedantic concept where the universe is the play, Leela, of the divine. The ultimate reality, Brahman, plays a cosmic game of hide-and-seek, intentionally forgetting its divinity to experience the drama of multiplicity and otherness. Implications for the magical practitioner: empowers the practitioner to recognize themselves as the universe in disguise. Magic becomes a conscious, joyful participation in the cosmic dance rather than a desperate struggle against a hostile environment. The practitioner realizes their will is the will of the cosmos. The transition from the ceramic and automatic models to the dramatic model is essential for profound spiritual growth and the mastery of the occult arts. By embracing the dramatic model, practitioners of the craft realize that they are not victims of circumstance, nor are they mechanical anomalies fighting for survival in a dead void. They are the entire works of the cosmos expressing itself in localized, breathing form. In the text Beyond Theology, The Art of Godmanship, Watts explores the profound implications of the divine playing the role of the mortal. The theology of the righteous, uncompromising, and authoritarian deity is deconstructed to reveal a more intimate and reciprocal reality. The creator and the created, the spirit and the flesh, are fundamentally one. The ultimate reality, whether termed Brahman, the Tao, or the All, purposefully limits its own omniscience and omnipotence to experience the thrill of surprise, vulnerability, and narrative progression. Watts posits a thought experiment. If an individual possessed the power to dream any dream they wanted every night, living 75 years of subjective time in a single evening, they would initially fulfill every conceivable wish: palaces, banquets, and total pleasure. However, this absolute control would rapidly devolve into agonizing boredom. The only cure for total, absolute power is to introduce the element of risk. The dreamer would eventually add a button labeled Surprise to their control panel, plunging their consciousness into the limitations of human existence, complete with pain, amnesia, and the illusion of mortality, just to experience the thrill of waking up again. This concept is deeply tied to the Eastern notion of Tat Tayam Asi, thou art that, which asserts that the inmost self of the individual is the inmost self of the cosmos. The art of godmanship is the practice of awakening to this reality without succumbing to the megalomania that Western culture fears. It is understanding that one is the divine, but so is every other person, animal, plant, and stone. A critical aspect of the cosmic drama and vital concept for practitioners of witchcraft is the necessity of opposition. Watts frequently paralleled the work of Carl Jung, particularly regarding the integration of the shadow self. In any engaging drama, there must be a villain, a source of conflict, or an element of trouble. Without the shadow, there is no substance. Without the dark, the light is imperceptible. In the cosmic game of hide-and-seek, the forces of darkness, the experiences of pain, and the so-called evil aspects of life are not ultimate, absolute realities to be eradicated. They are integral components of the play. Running away from fear is fear itself. Fighting pain is pain. Trying to be brave is simply being scared. The practitioner who engages in shadow work, perhaps utilizing sigil magic to intersect with the subconscious mind, must realize that the shadow is not an enemy, but a deeply misunderstood, creative facet of the universal self. Spiritual alchemy involves identifying the intent behind the shadow, crafting a representation of it, and integrating its energy to achieve a higher state of consciousness. By embracing the Kali archetype, the terrifying, devouring, yet loving and liberating aspect of the divine, the practitioner sees the light principle in the very depths of darkness. The philosophical assertions of Alan Watts share a profound, striking resonance with the ancient Western esoteric tradition of Hermeticism, particularly as outlined in texts like the Emerald Tablet and the Kabbalion. While Watts primarily utilized the vocabulary of Zen, Taoism, and Vedanta, the underlying mechanics of the universe he described perfectly mirror the 7 Hermetic principles. This intersection provides a unified theory of magical operation for the global practitioner. 1. The principle of mentalism. Hermeticism states, "The all is mind, the universe is mental." Watts echoes this by describing the physical universe as a mental projection or an illusion, Maya, crafted by the ultimate reality. He notes that the physical world is not rigid, dead matter, but a dynamic, vibrating expression of cosmic consciousness, rendering the distinction between the physical and the spiritual an obsolete category. For the witch, this principle confirms that reality is inherently malleable. Because the universe is mental, shifts in the practitioner's conscious create corresponding changes in the external physical plane. 2. The principle of correspondence. The axiom, as above, so below, as below, so above, highlights the hidden intelligence showing recurring patterns across physical, mental, and spiritual planes of existence. Watts illustrates this beautifully through the Buddhist concept of Indra's net, Jiji Muj, a multidimensional web of jewels where every single jewel reflects the light of all other jewels in the net ad infinitum. There is no separation between the microcosm, the individual, and the macrocosm, the universe. The inner sun reflects the outer sun. This principle validates the practice of sympathetic magic, manipulating a localized symbol, a poppet, a sigil, or an arrangement of herbs, reverberates through the entire cosmic web, working the miracles of one. 3. The principle of vibration. Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. Watts frequently discussed the universe as a vast system of vibrations encompassing light, sound, and the rhythmic beat of existence. Our physical senses merely capture a narrow band of these vibrations, screening out cosmic rays, ultraviolet light, and other high-frequency realities. Magical practices such as chanting, the use of the Sanskrit mantra Om, which encompasses the whole range of world-creating sound, and the utilization of specific botanical resonances in green witchcraft are direct applications of this law. By utilizing vibration, practitioners tune their consciousness to higher or lower states, unlocking higher powers. 4. The principle of polarity. Everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has its pair of opposites. Watts dedicated entire lectures and chapters to the game of black and white, emphasizing that opposites are mutually dependent and implicitly one. One cannot have the concept of up without down, solid without space, or self without other. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Hot and cold are merely different expressions of heat energy. Watts humorously synthesized this by stating that life is neither prickles, nor goo, but rather gooey prickles and prickly goo. The magical practitioner uses transmutation to shift focus along the pole, changing hate into love or fear into courage by altering the degree of the same underlying energy rather than attempting to destroy one pole entirely. 5. The principle of rhythm. Existence operates on a wave-like motion, the cycle of birth and death, waking and sleeping, the ebb and flow of the tides. Watts pointed out that the slower the wave, the more difficult it is for humans to perceive the connection between the crest and the trough, leading to the illusion of permanent death or permanent loss. The practitioner harmonizes this rhythm through observance of the sacred wheel of the year, Samhain, Imbolc, Beltane, etc., recognizing that winter's decay is the necessary rhythmic precursor to spring's abundance. Attempting to arrest the flow of this rhythm destroys the music of life. 6. The principle of cause and effect. Every cause has its effect, and every effect has its cause. Nothing escapes the law. In Eastern terms, this is karma. Watts warned that actions undertaken from a state of ignorance, specifically the delusion of the isolated ego trying to force its will upon the world, generate restrictive karma. However, when one realizes their unity with the cosmos, actions are performed freely and spontaneously, transcending the rigid bonds of linear causality. The practitioner acts not as a separate cause pushing against an effect, but as the unified expression of the entire process. 7. The principle of gender. Everything contains masculine and feminine principles. In Tantric Buddhism and Hinduism, which Watts frequently cited, this is represented by the union of Shiva and Shakti, or the intertwining of the active and receptive forces in a state of eternal resonance. Magically, creation requires the union of the conscious mind, masculine directive, and the subconscious mind, feminine receptive. To manifest reality, the practitioner must combine the inspiration of the subconscious with the diligent, rational calculations of the conscious mind. The urge to divine the future, communicate with unseen forces, or understand the hidden currents of the present is central to the witch's practice. Within the context of Library of Divine Echoes, which extensively explores the art of scrying, hydromancy, crystallomancy, and the Akashic Records, Alan Watts' perspective on the I Ching, the Book of Changes, provides a profound theoretical underpinning for all divinatory arts. Dating back between 3000 and 1200 BC, the I Ching originated as an oracle utilizing the cracks in heated tortoise shells and later the random division of yarrow stalks to generate 64 hexagrams composed of broken yin and solid yang lines. Watts noted that the great German philosopher Leibniz saw in the I Ching the foundational principles of binary arithmetic, reflecting a sophisticated understanding that the staggering complexity of the universe can be expressed through the interplay of dualistic symbols, 0 and 1, yin and yang. However, Watts' interpretation of divination extends far beyond mere fortune-telling or deterministic prophecy. He posited that an expert seer does not strictly need the stalks or the shells. They can see the hexagrams in the chance arrangement of a bowl of flowers, the scatter of objects on a table, or the natural markings of a stone. The external random event acts as a mirror for the internal state of the cosmos at that specific moment. This operates on the principle of synchronicity, an acausal connecting principle where the internal psychological state of the inquirer and the external physical arrangement of the divination tool are inextricably linked by the suchness, tathata, of the present moment. When a witch gazes into a scrying mirror, casts tarot cards, or reads tea leaves, they are not predicting a fixed, inescapable future. Rather, they are taking a localized reading of the universal vibration. The divination tool bypasses the rigid, calculating, and often anxious conscious mind, tapping into the unconscious intelligence of the broader environment. Because the practitioner is the universe looking at itself, the randomly drawn tarot card, or the vision in the crystal ball, is the universe communicating its current trajectory back to itself. It is a method of harmonizing with natural law rather than attempting to manage or control it through rigid planning. Alan Watts's approach to spirituality heavily influenced the development of chaos magic and modern eclectic occultism in the late 20th century, sharing DNA with the philosophies of Austin Osman Spare and Robert Anton Wilson. Watts often embodied the archetype of the trickster guru, a figure who employs holy cunning, humor, and paradox to shatter the rigid dogmas of their students. Watts humorously fantasized about acting as a charlatan guru, not to exploit the vulnerable, but to demonstrate that genuine mysticism and stage magic share a fluid boundary where belief itself is the primary engine of reality. This aligns perfectly with the core ethos of chaos magic, which posits that belief is a tool to be adopted and discarded at will to achieve specific magical outcomes, rather than an absolute truth to be worshipped. Watts frequently emphasized that religions and spiritual systems are skillful means, upaya in Buddhism, rafts used to cross a river. Once the practitioner reaches the other shore, it is absurd to carry the raft on their back. Tools, rituals, and dogmas are operational utilities, not eternal masters. The trickster guru utilizes shock, the reductio ad absurdum of the student's own beliefs, and the controlled accident to force an awakening. If a student insists the world is flat, the master agrees and encourages them to walk continuously west until they find the edge, knowing that the journey will inherently prove the world's roundness through direct experience. In magic, if a practitioner believes they are cursed or bound by an external force, the chaos magician or trickster guru might invent an entirely fabricated, highly theatrical ritual to break the curse. The ritual has no inherent objective power in a mechanical sense, but the belief generated by the theatricality successfully liberates the practitioner's mind, thereby altering their reality. Watts taught that the universe itself plays this game, deceiving itself into believing it is a separate, helpless mortal, only to experience the ecstatic shock of waking up. The Library of Divine Echoes places a strong emphasis on cultivating inner stillness as a prerequisite for spiritual sovereignty. Watts's teachings on meditation are highly unconventional compared to the strict ascetic traditions, rendering them incredibly accessible and potent for the modern magical practitioner. Racking up years of formal meditation simply to loosen the ego's grip can often just feed one's hubris and deepen the ego trip. The paradox of spiritual striving. A fundamental trap in both meditation and magic is the exertion of the ego to achieve a spiritual goal. Watts warned that so long as one thinks about trying or not trying to let go of oneself, one cannot let go. Attempting to force the mind into silence is akin to using a flashlight to illuminate its own bulb, or trying to bite one's own teeth. The very effort to improve oneself spiritually reinforces the illusion that there is a broken self that needs fixing by an active controller. When a practitioner sits down to meditate strictly to become better or to gain magical power, they are squandering energy in a vicious circle of self-consciousness. True spiritual awakening, satori, and deep meditative absorption, samadhi, occur only when the impossibility of self-grasping is thoroughly perceived. As Watts noted, muddy water is the best cleared by leaving it alone. The practice of wu-wei and anapanasati. The Taoist concept of wu-wei, non-striving or non-action, is essential. It does not mean literal physical immobility, but rather acting without forced self-conscious effort, flowing like water around an obstacle rather than bashing against it. In meditation, this translates to sitting quietly and doing nothing. Watts advocated for anapanasati, or mindfulness of the breath. The breath is unique because it is both voluntary and involuntary. It bridges the gap between what we do and what happens to us. It happens on its own, yet can be controlled. By simply observing the breath without forcing it, the practitioner learns to witness the happening of the universe. The practitioner is advised to breathe in through the nostrils and let the air fall out through the lips, driven purely by gravity and weight rather than muscular exertion. Deep listening and the contemplative ritual. Another profound technique involves deep listening. The practitioner sits and treats all sensory input, the sound of traffic, the singing of birds, the hum of an appliance, and even their own internal thoughts, as a unified symphony of the present moment. Instead of naming or categorizing the sounds, the practitioner allows them to wash over their consciousness. You do not try to stop the thoughts. You let them run as if they were birds twittering outside, and they will eventually become tired and stop. This can be coupled with a contemplative ritual centered around vocalization and mantra. In Hindu and Buddhist traditions, the sacred syllable Om is considered the sound of the universe creating itself. By floating a sound on the out-breath and letting it vibrate deeply within the chest and throat, the practitioner shifts their brainwave state. Free mantra chanting, creating spontaneous, nonsensical sounds from deep within the body, bypasses the linguistic, calculating brain, leading the practitioner into a state of joyous, unself-conscious absorption where the illusion of the separate ego completely dissolves. Understanding the philosophy of Alan Watts fundamentally alters how a practitioner approaches concepts of abundance, healing, and nature. In the context of green witchcraft and folk witchcraft, which seek to reestablish a profound relationship with the Earth's cycles, Watts's teachings provide the metaphysical soil in which these practices grow. Because the practitioner is not separate from the environment, the quest for abundance is no longer a desperate grasping for external resources. It is an alignment with the natural flow of the cosmos. As Watts noted, human desire tends to be insatiable because we try to abate our hunger by consuming symbols and conventions, like money, rather than experiencing the reality of the present moment. A chest of gold coins or a fat wallet of bills is of no use whatsoever to a wrecked sailor alone on a raft. True wealth and harmony are found in the tactile, immediate experience of the physical world. The scent of damp earth, the texture of a leaf, the warmth of the sun. To be forever looking beyond is to remain blind to what is here. Watts warned against an overly ethereal, puritanical spirituality that views the physical body and the earth as dirty or sinful. A robust spiritual materialism is necessary for the modern era. To be fully awakened is to fully inhabit the physical form, enjoying the pleasures of the senses without being hopelessly attached to their permanence. The practitioner honors the divine not by escaping to a transcendent heaven, but by planting seeds, ethically foraging, and grounding their bare feet into the soil, recognizing that the dirt itself is composed of stardust and cosmic intelligence. When faced with challenges, the practitioner armed with this worldview approaches them with a growth mindset. Pain, failure, and frustration are no longer viewed as punishments from an angry God or signs of spiritual inadequacy. They are recognized as the inevitable valleys that must logically and rhythmically accompany the peaks of life. By fully accepting the present reality, no matter how uncomfortable, the practitioner transmutes this anxiety into resilience, realizing that the answer to the problem of suffering is not away from the problem, but in it. Find a comfortable, stable position, whether seated upon a cushion, resting in a chair, or lying flat upon the ground. The physical body should be allowed to settle completely. The spine remains upright, but not rigid, embodying dignity without forced tension. The eyes may gently close or remain softly focused on a point on the floor. Now draw your attention to the breath. There is no need to change the rhythm of respiration or force the air in any specific manner. Simply observe the air as it enters the nostrils, cool and sharp, and as it departs through the lips, warm and heavy, guided only by gravity. The illusion of the breath as an action performed by an isolated ego begins to fade. Instead, the breath is recognized as a happening, the atmosphere moving into the lungs, the trees exchanging oxygen for carbon dioxide, the environment breathing the organism just as the organism breathes the environment. As the body breathes, sounds will naturally arise. Practice deep listening, receiving these sounds without naming them or making mental comments. Whether it is the wind outside, the hum of a distant machine, or the rustle of clothing, all auditory sensations are allowed to exist as a single woven texture of cosmic vibration. The mind may attempt to label these sounds or generate thoughts about the past or the future. When this occurs, simply treat the thoughts as more noise, like the chatter of birds or the sound of rain falling on a roof. Make no effort to stop the thoughts. Muddy water clears best when left entirely alone. Allow your awareness to expand beyond the physical boundary of the skin. Visualize the points of contact between the body and the earth below. Gravity anchoring the physical form is felt not as a weight, but as the magnetic embrace of the planet. The illusion of separation dissolves. You are not a stranger dropped onto the earth from a distant void. You are an extension of the earth itself, a localized expression of the planet's ancient volcanic intelligence. Shift your focus to the subtle vibrations within the hands, the chest, and the feet. This localized energy is acknowledged as the exact same energy that fuels the stars, pushes the tides, and animates the forests. rest in the profound realization that there is nowhere else to go, nothing to achieve, and nothing to grasp. The present moment is the ultimate destination. In this state of profound stillness, you are complete. The cosmos is experiencing itself through your specific, unique geometry. As the meditation draws to a close, carry this sense of supreme interconnectedness back into the waking world, ready to operate within the cosmic drama, not as a passive observer, but as a sovereign, awakened co-creator of reality. And so, we gently withdraw from the deep waters of the Tao and the intricate structures of Hermetic law. We've traversed quite the landscape today, from the rigid ceramic models of a boss god to the liberating realization that reality is a dramatic play, and you are the lead actor, the director, and the stage itself. If there is one seed to plant in the garden of your mind from our time with Alan Watts today, let it be the dismantling of that bag of skin illusion. Remember, your magic, whether you are casting for abundance, scrying for truth, or simply trying to navigate the traffic of your daily commute, does not come from a lonely ego fighting against a hostile universe. It comes from the realization that you are the universe. You are the cosmos, creating a localized aperture to experience the thrill of surprise, the texture of the earth, and even the challenge of the shadow. As you move through the rest of your week, I invite you to practice the art of Wu Wei. Don't force the river. Don't gnash your teeth against the current. Breathe. Listen to the symphony of the present moment, the traffic, the birds, the noise of your own thoughts, and realize it is all just the universe vibrating. Turn your common sense inside out. When you face an obstacle, smile at the villain in your drama, knowing it is just the other hand of the divine, there to make the game worth playing. If this synthesis of the East, the West, and the magical arts has resonated with you, please take a moment to subscribe and leave a review for the Library of Divine Echoes. It helps us widen the net and signal other awakening minds. Until we meet again in the ether, remember, you are not a stranger here. You are the works. Until next time, be sovereign, be still, and welcome home.